We need more women making decisions at the top, more women making decisions about where the referrals go.
A lot of female attorneys who start out sort of fall into that trap of thinking they need to do it all themselves.
To serve our clients in the best way possible, we have to learn and grow and really become as efficient as possible.
For the 8th consecutive year, women outnumber men in law schools across the nation. Yet this wave of change has not reached the shores of power. Women hold just 25% of seats at the table as board members and managing partners. But the tides are turning. Women in law are no longer meekly waiting for an invitation. They are boldly striking out, creating a future where success is defined on their own terms, and law firms fit into their lives, not the other way around. As this new generation of trailblazers rises, we stand with them, ready to amplify their voices and fuel the transformation. This is LawHer. I am Sonia Palmer, your host and VP of Operations at Rankings, the SEO agency supporting you in claiming your rightful place at the top. We are thrilled to present the second mini-series of Season 2, Titans of Tech. From solo practitioners to managing partners, from courtroom warriors to tech innovators, we're sharing the stories of women who are redefining what it means to succeed in law. Let's uncover their strategies, celebrate their triumphs, and learn from their journeys together. Dawn Smith is a testament to the belief that those who work hard and dream big can accomplish anything, no matter what the odds. From humble beginnings, Dawn has risen to one of the nation's top mesothelioma attorneys. Her trial team secured a record-breaking $322 million verdict, the largest single plaintiff asbestos award in history. But Dawn didn't stop there. She pivoted to advocate for nursing home abuse victims, building one of the largest practices in this field nationwide. What sets Dawn apart isn't just her impressive multi-million-dollar verdicts and settlements, and thousands of people helped. It's her innovative approach to running a law firm. Today, we'll explore how Dawn leverages technology and data to scale complex litigation, a strategy that's turning heads in the legal world. Learn how to harness data-driven decision-making to optimize your practice, gaining insights that can transform your approach to case management. Dawn shares her strategies for effective delegation and team building, crucial skills for any growing firm, and you'll discover innovative ways to leverage technology in case management and client communication, potentially revolutionizing how you interact with clients and handle cases. Perhaps most importantly, Dawn offers her hard-won insights on scaling a law practice while maintaining the quality of service that clients deserve. These are practical, actionable strategies that you can start implementing immediately, regardless of the size of your practice. Let's dive in.
My mom and dad got divorced when I was 2, and my grandparents really were her support network. They were there all the time. My grandfather worked for Chevrolet for 50 years. He started at the very bottom of the company. He was in service, just a regular mechanic, and worked his way up to head of the service department there. I think that came from very meager beginnings. Actually, they moved to Arizona after the Dust Bowl and started all over again. They always encouraged me that I could really do anything. I've tried to instill that in my kids too. I just think it's a mindset that you have to start from the very beginning.
I want to brag on you for a moment. You were one of the top grossing mesothelioma attorneys in the nation. Then you pivoted to advocate for nursing home abuse victims. You've secured over $350 million in verdicts and settlements. Your trial team achieved the largest single plaintiff asbestos verdict in history with an award of $322 million. And you grew one of the largest practices in the country. It can be easy to hold the misconception that your firm has always been as large and successful as it is. But like so many of our listeners, you had to start at the beginning. Will you take me back to 2012 when you first opened the firm and what the practice looked like then?
I worked in Orange County for almost 10 years with a great firm where I learned all of my litigation skills. And Curtis Klein-Smith, my partner, I've known him for over 20 years. He was my mentor. He wrote me a letter of recommendation to get into law school. He offered me a job when I met him at a judge's function when he had no authority to offer me a job at a firm that he just started at. So that's kind of how we started. I took a job in asbestos, handling an asbestos docket from Texas out of Mississippi. And then Curtis and I and another partner that we had decided we were going to do asbestos litigation. And we really focused not necessarily on mesothelioma. We had mesothelioma cases, but very few. Most of our cases were either non-malignant cases or lung cancer cases. So we really decided we were going to focus in that area because we thought that was an underserved area. A lot of asbestos companies had declared bankruptcy, and there were a lot of lawyers handling cancer cases and mesothelioma cases, but not so much the folks that had a lot of breathing difficulties because of asbestos in their lungs, but didn't have cancer yet. So that was really our business model. And Curtis kept his firm. Kobe, my other partner, kept his firm. And then we had this kind of joint venture, this asbestos firm. And then we really did a little bit. I helped Curtis with his practice as well. I helped Kobe with his, and they had both general PI practices. Curtis really specialized in nursing home abuse and neglect. So as we started in 2012, I was focused on mass torts, toxic torts. I handled some toxic exposure cases involving an insulation material that was making families sick. And I still have a few of those cases left. But so what we were doing was not how we felt was making the impact that we wanted to. Curtis and I broke off and we were still doing asbestos. And then we were just really sitting having lunch one day, and we had clients all over the country. So we had litigated cases around the country. And I just looked at him and I said, why don't we do nursing home abuse nationally? Is there any reason why we wouldn't do that? And we both just kind of paused and looked at each other and thought that we might be able to make a big impact there. So that's what kind of we started diverting our practice and focusing in that area, and really went all in on that at the beginning of 2022.
I love that you got to work with your mentor, because stars don't always align that way. There's these people that you kind of come across in life that has an influence, but you may never get to actually work with them or create something with them. So I love that you were able to. And so when you started this, did you have the goal of being as big as you are, or you used the word impact? Were you just looking to make that impact?
I became a lawyer to make a difference. I think that it's an absolute honor and privilege to be able to go into court, stand next to someone that has a very small voice, but has been deeply harmed and injured. They can stand there next to a large corporation and most of the time get a pretty fair shake. Now, the defense a lot of time has more resources than we do, but you can actually go into a court of law and stand next to a corporation and get a fair shake and hold them accountable for what they've done. So that's why I'm a lawyer. And when it comes to, focusing in this area, we just felt that there were so many cases that were not being litigated. I mean, most firms that handle cases in this area really handle it at a smaller volume, have, 2 or 3 associates and don't handle a lot of cases. And there are so many cases that are great cases that are being turned down by other firms. We have a wide range of cases that we feel are, I guess, just because a case has an injury, maybe because there's 2 falls instead of 5, or a stage 3 pressure ulcer instead of a stage 4, those are still horrific injuries. And we've really tried to focus our business so that we can help more people get justice for those injuries. Because, when you're living in a nursing home, the family cannot take care of this person anymore. They need help. That's the reason that they're there most of the time. And for people not to be treated with dignity and respect, it's horrific. So we just felt like this was an area where we could make a difference.
Did you have any fears when you were first starting out?
Oh my gosh, I have fears every day. I have fears today. That never goes away. It's hard. It's certainly hard. We've gone through all kinds of restructuring. We tried one area of the law, and Curtis and I were kind of pulling against each other because I was really focused more on the toxic exposure cases, and he was focused more on the elder abuse and the PI cases, and we were not rowing together. So really diving into one area of practice has been the best way. But oh my gosh, tons of growing pains, bringing on a different CRM, trying that, working with referral partners, building out each state to make sure that we know exactly what the laws are, building relationships with people. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart. That is for sure. And it's a fight every day. It doesn't get easier, I don't think.
No, I think you're right. I think the fears and the issues, the challenges are just different or bigger. A lot of female attorneys who start out sort of fall into that trap of thinking they need to do it all themselves, either because they feel like they can't spend money or because sometimes women are just trained to, we have to do everything, run a successful business and be a great advocate for their clients. A lot of what you just said, like that. So you ran into that. How did you get past it?
My partner, he said, Dawn, you've got to stop it. You're being ridiculous. I mean, I'm doing just all of these tasks that can be delegated. And I think if someone can do it 80% as good as you, and you can actually have an open mind and say, you know what, I'm going to trust these other folks because it's a team effort. You have to learn how to hire great people, surround yourself with great people, and then trust those people to carry out your vision. If you don't do that, you can't grow. You must let go of those smaller tasks that maybe you even enjoy doing, but really your goal should be to kind of sit down. It's kind of a quadrant, right? Some things you're great at, but you hate. Some things you're bad at, but you love. You want to be in that sweet spot to where you're working on things that you're great at and things that you love. And then you got to delegate the rest. And I know it's easy to say, but I mean, that has to happen 100%. So that's what we're working on.
Growing a law firm requires letting go of certain tasks and delegating effectively. But as Dawn points out, you can only delegate if you have the right people to delegate to. Building a strong team is crucial for growth. In this next segment, Dawn breaks down her firm's hiring process and shares insights on what worked as they expanded their practice. She explains how they've structured their team, some of the key roles they've filled, and how they've adapted their hiring approach over time.
We've had a lot of transformation in a lot of different ways that we've handled cases. At first, we had one attorney basically handling pre-lit and litigation, handling the docket of cases all the way throughout. Then we switched it and had a pre-litigation department. And then we've tried that a couple of different ways. And Charlie Kirby is our COO, and she's been with Curtis for over 20 years. So she's really seen every part of the firm, and she's been with us every step of the way in every practice area that we've ever engaged in. So she is an integral part. The structure is so important to make sure that the structure is working. So right now we have our firm segregated into departments. We have an administration department, we have our pre-litigation department, we have a probate department, and then we have our intake and litigation departments. So those are really kind of the flow that we have. And clients actually were getting a little bit confused because different people would be calling them. So now at the very beginning of the case, we have a webinar to where we present on all of the aspects of our firm. It's called Life Cycle of the Case. We go on once a month, and every new client that we've signed up is sent an invitation to explain, we're going to be on. Our senior leadership team gets on and explains what each one of the departments do and how they're specialists in each area. And I think that has really helped a lot. So structure is important before position, if that makes sense.
This is interesting to me. The way you can use tech, like you could record videos, or you can have live meetings, but a webinar sort of allows for like a live version of your team, but then the new clients are just sort of absorbing the information.
Mm-hmm. And they can ask questions. They can ask questions too. Yeah, exactly.
But so it's sort of like there's an agenda, it's prepared, but it can also be ad hoc. You can adjust it for whatever's happening. That's really smart.
You should. In fact, I think that it's just the more information that you can provide that sets kind of expectations and so somebody can see down the road what is going to happen. It helps so much. Clients were just confused. We have a rule. Every client has to be contacted at least once a month. And then we have touch points throughout the litigation to where we provide information about what's coming up. Like, okay, your case has moved from pre-litigation to litigation. That's what this means. We've entered discovery. That's what this means. Your deposition is being set. That's what this means. And we use case status so that we can text our clients, and we use Litify for our CRM that we're still building out so that we have that automation. That's a work in progress. It's not perfect by any means, but having that data to where we know exactly what's happening with the cases on any given day, I think that's been helpful too. You have to be able to see what's happening across your firm in a snapshot to be able to manage and grow as well.
Absolutely. Scaling, and then that will indicate who your next hires are. So your firm has disrupted the traditional models of either focusing on high value cases or high volume of low value cases. Instead, you've leveraged tech to tackle complex litigation at scale. Can you elaborate on how you've designed those systems and processes to make this possible?
I think it's a work in progress, right?
Always.
But what we did is we learned through error. So we hired a bunch of brand new lawyers out of law school. They were all, first year associates. We hired a class that came in, and we really didn't have enough written procedures, how you draft a complaint, how you, set a deposition, how you file a motion to compel, all of those procedures, how you set up a lien, all of that. And we really kind of took for granted that it could be scaled just by one person teaching another person. It just doesn't work that way. You cannot scale and have quality work product the way you want it done unless you tell people exactly the way you want it done. We had a meeting with these associates, and they're like, we just feel like we need a little bit more information. We need a little bit more structure. And Curtis and I really took that to heart. And we stepped back and got our leadership team together, and we started writing processes across all of our teams. And that was grueling and resisted by a lot of folks. But now we have our feet under us to where we have these written processes to where people can go look. I actually met John Fisher at a conference, and I can't remember which, is the Business of Law conference. And he was so kind. He actually was talking about processes, and he has a website, and he calls it Fisherpedia. And he created it with a web designer, and he said, "Hey, Dawn, do you want to look at it? You can use any of our processes. Here's the log in anytime you want." And I did. I got in there and I started looking. It works just like Google. So you load your documents in, you load the information in, somebody just types in a search word, and everything related to that comes up to where you can click on it, search it, get to your forms. And we contacted his web designer, and he created one for us. So we have something called Smithology. So we have our processes loaded in that, and that's still a work in progress. I don't think everybody uses it as much as I would like them to, but it's certainly a first source reference to where at least you can get your feet under, exactly where to go. We have an orientation process now. So every single team member that comes in, they go through an orientation process. They meet with our senior folks in each department to where they know exactly what each department does, how they do that, how the departments work together. I think that that's really helped as well.
A few things. Your leadership team is actually who created the processes initially.
Yes.
That was probably smart. I like also that you had this resource, because so often I think people try to start from scratch. When you're doing something like litigation, that's not a new thing, right? There's resources out there. You can take that and make it your own, tweak it so that it then fits your firm, your company.
I use ChatGPT to help make processes, and it's growing every second of every day. There are so many resources out there, and you're right. Don't reinvent the wheel. Ask. I'm happy to provide anybody that contacts me this information, because somebody gave it to us. You have to leverage your resources.
Yeah, I think ChatGPT, you can be really creative with it. I have started asking it what I missed. So like if I create a doc or I have a doc that I use, I will give it to ChatGPT and be like, what didn't I cover? What have I not thought about? And just little tweaks like that versus, give me 10 things that I need to do before trial. But just like test my own brain against that stuff, I found that has worked really, really well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
What have I missed? Or give me the top 10 ideas. What have been the benefits, the significant benefits you've seen from taking an innovative approach?
I mean, I think that's the only thing you can do if you want to scale. I mean, you have to innovate, and we're continuing to innovate. I mean, right now we're trying to figure out exactly the steps that need to happen in every single case to make sure we're working it up to the highest level possible, but we're also litigating in states that have caps. So when you're litigating in a state that has caps and you're handling this kind of case, you can't spend, $100,000 on a case that is maximum worth $250. So you have to figure out a way to be efficient in everything you do. If you're not efficient and if you're not replicating these things to where, it takes you 2 minutes now, where it used to take you 2 hours, and you're doing that across all of the teams, then now you're getting some traction. That's the book Traction by Gino Wickman. I mean, that's really where we started. Curtis said, you've got to read this book. And Curtis is the business guy. He's brilliant. He's focused on business, since he became a lawyer, and that's really his passion. And he said, look, we got to make some changes if we're going to grow, if we're going to do this right, read this book. So, that really got us started on the path. And now I get excited about business too. I'm really the litigator. I handle trials, and that's my passion, but that's where we come together and overlap.
I was going to ask you about Traction because you've said a few things that have sort of fed into that. We're a Traction company. We've been on EOS for 7-8 years now. Are you visionary or integrator?
Yes. So Curtis and I are both visionaries. So
aren't there usually two, despite what Traction might say?
So no, not really. We've asked so many people, and we struggled with that for a long time. We were just trying to figure out, well, how are we going to make this model fit us? Because absolutely we are. And I think when we took our tests, so the personality testing is such a window into reality of who you are and how you react. And when we took Print is one of the tests, and Colby is the other. And when you read those, it's just, you've got your shadow self and your best self. What happens when you're in either mode? When you read those, they're incredibly accurate. So I think that was really helpful too. You got to know what your strengths are. You got to know how you react to things. And then for your people, you really want to know how they react in their best self and how you get them to react in their best self. I mean, that's what being a leader is all about, is trying to make sure that the person that has trusted you to become part of your firm is learning and growing and, just getting better every day at what they do.
Data isn't just for tech companies anymore. It's becoming an essential tool for law firms looking to optimize their operations and make informed decisions. Dawn's firm has embraced this data-driven approach, integrating it into their daily practices. In this next segment, we'll explore how Dawn leverages data to monitor and improve her law firm's performance. Dawn shares insights on how data informs their decision-making process, from weekly data meetings to key performance indicators.
So it's really monthly that we do our data meetings, but we're always looking at them. So Litify is great in that you have these dashboards, so you can actually basically see what the lawyer is doing, or what the paralegal is doing, or the legal assistant, what they're doing on a daily basis without even talking to them or walking into their office and, kind of hovering over them and meeting with them individually. We have KPIs, right? Key performance indicators, to where we know if these certain things get done on a case, it's going to move the case forward as quickly as possible. And I think for young lawyers especially, and maybe even some experienced lawyers, they don't know the tasks that have to be done to move that case forward. And we're plaintiffs' lawyers. So if we're not moving the case forward to resolution or trial, then first of all, we're doing a disservice to our clients, and we're certainly not doing a good job for our business. That cash flow is so important. So we have these snapshots in the dashboard of everything that's happening in the firm. And data is only as good as the people that are implementing it or, inputting it. So we still struggle with that, and we're still trying to get that down. We have some amazing folks working with us that have learned how to use Litify and are continuing to use Litify for that data. But Curtis is looking at the data every single day, constantly, to see where we are, what we can do to change, how we can improve things. It's actually just a constant working process.
How do you evaluate the ROI on a new tool like Litify? How do you know if it's working, if it was worth it?
Well, I would say it has not been worth it for a long time, because when we first got it, we didn't hire somebody internally to really build it out for us. And Litify had resources, but those resources were pretty expensive. So hiring somebody internally that has learned Litify and really that's their main job, that has been a game changer for us. I think that we've spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on that CRM, and there are certainly other CRMs that are not as expensive as Litify, but we really needed something that was customizable, and that seemed like the right thing. When it comes to figuring out, is it worth it? I think that is still something that we are trying to learn and improve on and grow on. I mean, once we get it to where it's doing what it's exactly supposed to do, I know it's a game changer now, and probably within the year, it's going to really, really make a huge impact, I think, because you can't scale if you can't see the data. You got to really know who's performing and who's not. And it can't be an emotional decision just because we think somebody's working or they're not working. It's got to be based on actually their performance. And that is tangible, real information that you can use to make the best decisions.
Absolutely. Beyond case management and sort of client communication, you've mentioned tools like Traction. Are there other tools, or are there other areas where you've seen technology make an impact in your practice?
Definitely. So case status with the texting option for clients, that's been a game changer. So clients can text directly into their file. We can send out mass texts to all of our clients. They get texts when the case moves from one phase to another. So I think that the communication, using technology to improve communication with clients, that's huge. Smithology that I was telling you about, that's technology that we've used to house all of our training in a way that makes sense to us. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can buy out there, like Trainual, different platforms that you can use to house your resources like that. But the way this web page is laid out, I'm telling you, it's just like Google. It's so cool. I love it. Using video conferences has really changed the way we do things as well, because when Curtis and I first started practicing, our clients came to our office if we wanted to meet with them. Now we're practicing nationwide, so that is impossible. Being able to actually see someone and talk to them, like we do all of our intakes by video and record those so that they can see us and we can see them. It's not perfect, but it is definitely, just being able to see that other person makes such a big difference.
I think that's really key. I think that's something that COVID, the pandemic, sort of introduced. It forced people to kind of break this traditional law firm. I'm going to go into the office and I'm going to meet with my lawyer. And attorneys had to think of creative ways to talk to their clients, and it ended up being easier for the client.
100%.
They want to be able to work with a lawyer the way that they order a pizza, right? right here. So I think firms who have adapted that technology and have stayed with it to kind of go to where the user or the client wants to be are the ones that are going to continue to succeed. So I really
well,
admire
COVID
that.
really did. I mean, you said it. It changed everything about how we practice. It actually made what we do possible, because I was traveling, East Coast, West Coast. If I had a hearing on the East Coast, I'd be gone basically for a day and a half. But now I can have a deposition in the morning on the East Coast, a hearing in the afternoon in Texas, and then do another deposition on the West Coast and not even leave my office. So when it comes to leveraging time, it's changed everything. And lawyers would never have moved forward like that if we didn't have to. Never. Judges would never. I would never have done it. I mean, if you would have told me 5-6 years ago that I would be comfortable taking a key deposition remotely, I would have said, no way. I will never do that. Just got to keep your mind open to technology for sure. And AI is a game changer as well. I know that that's going to be the next frontier, really, that hits us head on, that we got to deal with.
Yeah, I think the adoption of it and then just harnessing it for good, I think it has to be embraced. There's no way to avoid it. And I think it can be embraced for good. So do you think it's especially crucial for women in the legal industry to be early adopters of technology?
Well, it's a good way to create an edge for sure. We have to use our resources to get better, regardless of whether or not we're women or men. To serve our clients in the best way possible, we have to learn and grow and really become as efficient as possible. So if AI is going to allow us to do that, if I'm writing, for example, just a job description or a workbook, some sort of a workbook or training manual or something like that. I mean, there's so much that you can get that is a baseline that you would never have been able to get before, that you would have had to start from scratch. So we've got to be able to use technology to leverage our time. And the more time we have to really focus on things that we love and that we're great at, like I was saying, the better we're going to be.
I mean, you could start somewhere. It goes back to that B+, right? If you can get a B+ with ChatGPT on a job description, you can make that an A+ later, right? You can always refine it. You got to start somewhere. So I do think that about ChatGPT and AI in general, it makes getting started
so much easier. Yes. Yes. For me, that's exactly. For me, 100%, that's the hardest part. I always tell my daughter's in college right now. I'm like, just sit down, open your computer. I'm like, just sit down, open, write one sentence, just start on your paper. I mean, that's the hardest part.
That's good advice. I do it for myself. 5 minutes. If you spend 5 minutes on this thing, and 9 times out of 10, it takes less than 5. Excellent. You recently started the Ladies in Law podcast with some of your colleagues. What inspired you to create this platform, and what do you hope to achieve through these conversations?
I love this platform so much. And the ladies I'm doing this with, Lisa Goucher, I've known her for over 10 years, Kelly Raymond, coming up on 10 years. And we just would meet from time to time and have happy hour. And we had just such a great conversation about all kinds of things. And I was just driving home one day and I thought, oh, wow, we could... What if we did a podcast and just talked about things that impact business and law and women? We all have such a different perspective, right? Trial lawyer versus jury consultant, Kelly Raymond, versus a business owner, Lisa Goucher. She started in the asbestos industry and court reporting back in the 90s and has grown 2 successful court reporter companies and marketing companies. And she's just an inspiration to me. And so is Kelly. And we really have gotten to know each other even better. Lots of things that we thought we knew about each other, we really didn't. And I think just being able to encourage women to take that leap to start themselves. I think just encouraging women to count on themselves, bet on themselves. We can do so much with the resources that we have and actually reaching out and, bonding together to help others. I think that's really the premise.
As we wrap up, I like to look to the future. What gives you the greatest hope and optimism for the future of women in the legal industry?
Well, we're making strides. I think they're slow, but we're making strides. I think women have outnumbered men in law school since 1991, but this year is the very first year that there have actually been more first-year associates women than men. It's a very small percentage point, but finally, I think encouraging women to actually stay in law and grow in the firm that they're in or make that leap to start their own firm is really important, because while we are making strides kind of in that middle realm, we need more women making decisions at the top, more women making decisions about where the referrals go, more making decisions about who is going to be appointed in this position or that position. So really growing this lower level and then encouraging people to continue to move up in the ranks, either through their own law firm, starting their own law firm, or becoming a partner in a large firm. I mean, women are still so outnumbered by men when it comes to being partners at large firms across the country. And that has to change. You know, there has to be diversity in voice. I mean, that's how we represent our clients the best, because we all have different perspectives, all different perspectives based on our own experiences. We need more African Americans, more Latinas, more Asians, women, men. We just need those diverse perspectives to provide the best representation to our clients.
Dawn's firm is handling complex litigation at scale using technology. She shows us that there's no need to be bound by traditional practice models. Build the firm that resonates with you and leverage tech to help you get there. Her use of process documentation is a perfect example. Dawn's Smithology system brilliantly demonstrates how we can codify our knowledge and processes. This isn't just about efficiency, it's about creating a sustainable, scalable practice. Imagine how much easier it would be to onboard new team members or scale your practice with something like that in place. Embrace data-driven decision-making. Those monthly data meetings and KPI dashboards Dawn mentioned, they're not just for big tech companies. By leveraging data, firms can make more objective decisions about their practices, teams, and growth strategies. With these strategies, innovative thinking, solid processes, and data-driven decisions, we can work smarter, not harder. We can build practices that not only succeed, but also accommodate the full, rich lives we want to lead. If you found this content insightful, inspiring, or it just made you smile, please share this episode with a trailblazer in your life. For more about Dawn, check out our show notes. And while you're there, please leave us a review or a 5-star rating. It really helps others discover the show. And I will see you next week on Law Her, where we'll shed light on how another of the brightest and boldest women in the legal industry climbed to the top of her field. Until next time, stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep making waves in the legal industry. You've got this.